Hi, I'm Shay Coker, Managing Director at Savills. We're a leading commercial tenant advisory based in London, but I'm in Miami. And today we're not talking about real estate. Um, Got a guest today from Down Under, Andrew Taylor, where it's already tomorrow. So thanks for joining.
Yeah. Hello from the future.
um, Andrew, just to get right into it, I mean, what you did a few years ago was incredible, and you ate potatoes for an entire year every day, and only potatoes. What was your mindset, or um, what was your situation like beforehand? How did it come to a decision like this to eat potatoes only?
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, basically my whole life I struggled with my weight since as long as I can remember. Some of my first memories of school are of being bullied about my weight. And yeah, it kept on going all through my life. And like most people who have been overweight for extended periods, I tried many different diets, and I succeeded at all of them until I didn't. Yeah, I was very good at sticking to something for a couple of weeks or a month and losing significant weight, and then putting it all back on plus more. And this whole thing really started for me when the latest weight loss adventure came to a grinding halt with a big binge on pizza and ice cream and all that sort of stuff. And then the following day, I was feeling really depressed about having let my success go, and I sat down. I was really depressed, and I sat down on the couch and cracked open a beer to drown my sorrows. And as I cracked open that beer, it just hit me like a ton of bricks that the way I'd been treating food my whole life was very similar to the way an alcoholic would treat the beer in my hand. And we've all probably, well, most of us, probably all of us, have known an alcoholic over the time who has been able to quit alcohol for a period of time, and then a special occasion comes up, or even it maybe even not a special occasion, but at some point in time, the alcoholic will say, "Oh, I'm going pretty well now. I can probably just have one beer and everything's going to be okay. I'll just have one beer and I'll go back to being sober tomorrow." And of course, that's the top of a slippery slope. And that was the way it's always been with food for me. So that binge that I talked about it started with one slice of pizza. I'll just have one slice of pizza and everything will be okay. And it wasn't okay. And that had happened so many times for me. The amount of times that I told myself I could have one cookie, or one slice of cake, or try to do this moderation thing, and it never worked out. And of course, alcoholics can't drink alcohol in moderation, and a food addict I would argue that a food addict should stop trying to eat junk food in moderation as well. So yeah, it evolved from that thought to, if an alcoholic can quit alcohol, then maybe a food addict should quit food. And of course, you can't quit food, you need to eat. So basically, I got as close to quitting food as you can get by quitting all except one food. And that was my attempt at dealing with my food addiction, following the abstinence model that would be followed by every other kind of addiction.
Right, right. And and did you study other foods that you could potentially eat for a long period of time?
Yeah. I spent when I first had this idea, I didn't automatically think I'm going to eat only potatoes. I started with, I didn't even think I would eat one kind of food. The question was, I wonder how close I could get to the abstinence model. What would I have to do? How close could I get to eating only one kind of food? And so I did a lot of research. I have a science degree myself, so that was a helpful thing. It's not a nutrition science thing, but at least I understand how science works, and I can interpret study design, and I can, I understand how to evaluate science and how to interpret data and all those sorts of things. So yeah, I spent a good couple of months doing hours, literally hours of research every day on how this was going to work and what I was going to do. And yeah, by the end of it, potatoes was the obvious choice. There was not really anything that came close to it. There were some other things that I considered along the way, but nothing ever really convinced me that, yeah, this was going to be a great idea until and potatoes was really the obvious one. Yeah.
And from what I understand, you were able to find some other either civilizations or people that had eaten potatoes for a lengthy period of time.
Yeah, well, most people know about the Irish population. They didn't eat only potatoes, but very close to it. They were getting 95+% of their calories from potatoes for over a couple of centuries. The population was fit and strong and healthy, and they went through a population boom during this period of time, which your population doesn't boom if your population's not healthy. And there's a lot of writing at the time noting that the Irish were noticeably bigger, stronger, more attractive than their English neighbours. And that's from a diet of very close to only potatoes. And then you can look around the world at other populations that have done similar things. To this day, there's Papua New Guinea and Highlander tribes that still eat nearly all of their calories come from sweet potatoes. You can look at the Okinawan diet. The traditional Okinawan diet is almost only sweet potatoes. There's multiple examples from eating sweet potatoes and normal potatoes, especially during war times, like in the Netherlands. During and after the war, there was the vast majority of their nutrition came from potatoes. There's a famous painting by Van Gogh called "The Potato Eaters," and yeah, that shows typical Dutch lifestyle of they're all eating potatoes, and that's the way they were for quite a number of years, and they were healthy. And then there are examples of science as well. There was a study done in the 1920s where a Polish marathon running couple were followed and studied for 6 months while they ate only potatoes, and at the end of 6 months they ran personal best marathons after doing that. So that's another example. There are also examples of prisoners of war that were fed only potatoes and maintained excellent health and were reasonably happy with their diet. Of course, they weren't happy with being prisoners of war, but the food was okay for them, and they and they maintained excellent health and energy and all of that. So there are multiple examples and robust science behind it. Yeah.
So I remember, I believe the year was, what was it, 2016 that you did this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Chose a leap year. That was a bad move.
Yeah. So I started watching due to, I think, one of the first articles that came out about you. I started following you back in, I almost want to say it was like February of 2016, and somewhat towards the beginning. And I would check in every so often and see how you were doing. I knew you were going to do fine, but how hard was it initially to keep going, and what kind of spurred you on?
Yeah, in the beginning, it was really, really hard. The first 2 weeks of it were probably the hardest thing I've done in my life. The cravings were intense. I was in the lead up to, in the couple of years before doing this, I was dealing with clinical depression and anxiety. So, my depression was bad at that point in time, and my anxiety, and so adding that to the pressure of eating only one food and this drastic lifestyle change, and then I was an emotional eater, and I was a stress eater. So at the end of a stressful day, the only way I had to deal with my stress was by eating junk food, and then you take that off the table, and what do you do with those emotions? I didn't know how to handle it, and so there's a whole bunch of reasons why it was a really tough couple of weeks. But once I got through that couple of weeks, then I wouldn't say it got easy, but I certainly got into a groove, and it got progressively easier. And then by the time I reached, I reckon, 2 months, from then on, it was just, yeah, it was pretty smooth sailing. I didn't really, for once I'd done 2 months, I sort of felt like I'd achieved everything I wanted to achieve. But from then on, I was really just going through the rest of the year because I said I would, and I wanted to complete something that I said I would do. But yeah, in the beginning, it was certainly very, very hard. But yeah, it was worth doing for
Yeah,
sure.
it's simply amazing.
Yeah, I always say that it was, yes, it was hard doing only potatoes, but it was not as hard as living life the way that I was before that. You know, getting up
Interesting.
every day and trying to face the day, living with a body that was 120 pounds more than it is now, and living with depression and anxiety. That was much harder than eating only potatoes for a while. Yeah.
Wow. And so I think one of the first articles that I read, that they interviewed a nutritionist, and I don't remember if it was the first or the second. There were several, but they'd always interview a nutritionist, and it seems like the nutritionist would say, "Oh, this could be good for a few days, but in the long term, it's going to cause multiple problems. You're not going to get enough vitamins, minerals, protein, etc." What do you say to that?
Yeah, some of these experts were hilarious. Like it was just genuinely very funny. Well, scary as well. It's not just funny. It's this combination of funny and scary that people that are supposed to be experts, that are supposed to be guiding the rest of society, because we can't all be experts on everything. The general lay public should be able to rely on our experts to give us good information, so that we can spend our time being experts in other things.
That's right.
That's but one of the first that I remember, there's no point naming names right now. I've named names in the past, but one of the first that I remember was an expert going on national TV in Australia, and saying that she was worried about me getting bowel cancer from a lack of fiber. That was like, what? Potatoes have heaps of fiber. I was getting way more than my dietary fiber requirements. And like, who are these people? What are they? The same person also said that she was worried about me getting scurvy from a lack of vitamin C, which is also ridiculous. Most people don't know, but then again, most people are not experts. Most people don't know that potatoes have a heap of vitamin C. And I was getting, I can't remember the exact numbers, but I think it was like 350% of my daily vitamin C requirements, recommended intake. And then, and more people, another very common one was iron. People saying, oh, I'm not getting enough iron. I'm going to struggle for iron. And I was getting over 400% of my recommended daily intake of iron. And then, yeah, protein was another one. Obviously, everyone, where do you get your protein? That's always a big thing, which I expect lay people to ask me. But if you're an expert, you should know that potatoes have protein, and that I was getting right in the middle of the recommended protein range. And all good balance of all amino acids, which is, for people that don't know, that's amino acids are the building blocks of protein. So protein's made up of all sorts of amino acids, and we need a certain combination of all these different amino acids, and potatoes provided me with all the different amino acids. So yeah, we could talk about this for a long time, but to put it mildly, the experts genuinely have no idea what they're talking about. It would take them 1 minute to get on Google and say, and find out how much iron I was getting, but they didn't do that. And this is not like a gray area where some experts agree and some disagree. This is just it's just fact. It's like potatoes have protein, and if you Google that, you'll find out potatoes have protein, they have vitamin C, they have iron, they have fiber. This is not something that's debatable. It's there, and these experts don't understand that, or they don't want to know. I don't know. It was just a very strange part of the whole story.
Yeah. Before I get into the final results of your year potato journey, what were you eating the most of? Is it how did you prepare them?
I was a three-way tie, basically. Pretty much all of what I ate. I did vary it a little bit and try different things from time to time, but yeah, pretty much all of what I ate was either baked or boiled or mashed potatoes. And I would just, basically, I'd make a big batch of one of those, eat it until it was gone, and then make a big batch of it, of the next thing, and just rotate through baked or boiled or mashed potatoes. And then, yeah, there was occasionally I would make wedges, or I would make potato waffles, or something a little bit more interesting. But most of the time it was just, yeah, baked, boiled, or mashed. Yeah.
Interesting. And um, so you were getting blood tests and nutritional accompaniment during this year, right?
Yeah.
So what what did the blood test show as you went along, and what about the weight as well? What did that how did that evolve? Because
Yeah.
you were quite overweight before you started.
Yeah. I started at 152 kilos, which I think it's a while since I've done the numbers, but I think it was like 336 pounds or thereabouts.
Okay.
So yeah, I was a big guy. And yeah, I had medical supervision over the course of the year, and I had DEXA scans as well, which is like a body composition scan. It's a sort of an X-ray kind of thing that measures, yeah, what your body's made up of. So, but yeah, I don't have all the numbers on me at the moment, but I can tell you that my cholesterol dropped significantly, my blood pressure dropped significantly, my blood sugars dropped significantly. Yeah, everything improved. There's not one single thing that got worse. Everything improved on my blood numbers. My resting heart rate dropped. Of course, my fitness levels got better as the year went on. Everything just got better. Every time I had a medical checkup, it was better than the one before. And yeah, my doctor had not a single complaint or concern in any way. It was yeah, it was very, very good all the way through. DEXA scans measured my bone density. You know, that's another complaint of the experts, was that I was not getting enough calcium, but my bone density stayed the same. Yeah, that was fine. Not enough protein. I'm going to waste away, lose all my muscle. My muscle stayed the same according to the DEXA scans, and yeah, obviously my fat levels dropped a hell of a lot as well, and I lost 55 kilos, which I think is 121, 122 pounds or something like that.
Wow.
So yeah.
I mean, most people that I talk to tend to think that potatoes will make you fat, and there's these carbs, and there's a stigma associated with that. There's we live in like a protein rich society where everybody's talking about protein, and nowadays keto. So what it's obvious that potatoes don't make you fat. You ate them, you ate a lot of them for a year.
Yeah.
but yeah, I only have to point them to an article of yours for them to understand it. Everybody thinks that they will get fat eating potatoes.
Well, most people eat potatoes cooked in oil, and then they serve them with cheese, bacon bits, sour cream. Basically they load them up with junk, and then they blame the potato. It's not the potato's fault. Potatoes have basically become a garbage delivery system. That's what they are. And yeah, if you remove the garbage, then you've got a beautiful thing. So potatoes they're a low calorie density food. You can eat a lot of potatoes for not many calories. Yeah, they're a high percentage of their calories come from carbohydrates, but that doesn't mean they're a high calorie food. High carbohydrate food is different to high calorie. They have a high water content. Water has 0 calories, and they have a high fiber content, and fiber has 0 calories. So a lot of the food that you're eating is 0 calories in it. And then what's left over is obviously you have calories in the fat, protein, and carbohydrates that are in potatoes. But yeah, the point is you can eat a lot of potatoes without eating too many calories. So, and I ate a lot of potatoes. I'm a big guy. I ate a lot. I was eating 3.5 to 4 kilos a day. So that's like, I think it's around 9 pounds of potatoes a day I was eating.
Wow.
So yeah, it's you can eat a lot of potatoes.
Right.
If you're not loading them up with junk, then they're going to be good for you.
Were you? I would assume that you were doing most of this stuff at home.
Yeah, yeah. I went out occasionally, but yeah, most of my food was made at home by me. Yeah,
So
and
so you
take
could
it with me wherever I went, and yeah, it was easy.
so it's translatable to today's times when most of us are stuck at home.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah. I know that in some parts of the world it's hard to get potatoes at the moment, but for me, there are potatoes around. It's not too much trouble getting potatoes. It's hard to get. People have stockpiled all the rice and beans and pasta and that sort of thing, so that's hard to get. But fresh food is still, yeah, pretty readily available because fresh food just gets restocked every day. But it takes some time to replace all those staples like the rice and beans and pasta that people have bought up in bulk. So yeah, it's not too much trouble for me to get potatoes, and potatoes are not all I eat these days. I do eat other things as well, but yeah, it's good to know that there's always a supply there.
What just out of curiosity, where do you tend to store the potatoes when you're not after you buy them before eating them?
Usually just in the fridge. I don't think it matters though.
Yeah.
I put them in there's room in the fridge. I just put them there, but you can put them in a dark cupboard as well. The main thing is it's just got to be dark where they are. But yeah, I've got room in the fridge, so that's where they go. Yeah.
Right. Understood. Now, a lot of people would be asking, what did you do for to satisfy your kind of a sweet tooth uh, on this diet? Is it possible, or do you just eat so many potatoes that you forget about it, or what?
Well, two things. First of all, I have this rule that's first eat potatoes, and that's if you have a sweet craving, which I did, and then yeah, the rule is, well, whatever craving you have, it doesn't matter. First eat potatoes, and the way that works is you don't have to tell yourself that you can't have the sweet thing, the chocolate, the cake, the donut, whatever it is. You have to tell yourself that I can have that, and I'll have that at a future time. But first, I'm going to load up on potatoes, fill up on potatoes, stuff yourself with potatoes, and then once you've done that and you're genuinely full, you've had a whole a big amount of potatoes, then see what your cravings are like, and it'll be gone. You won't. It's easy to say no to something that you don't want. So that's the first thing. Fill up on potatoes and watch the craving disappear. The second thing is I have a little saying. It's make your food boring and your life interesting. So
It's a good one.
you don't. I like to say, rather than looking for interesting things to eat, we need to look for interesting things to do. In the end, the reason that we're eating, one of the reasons that we want to eat these sweet or salty or fatty or whatever kinds of junk foods is that we're doing it for entertainment, and we're doing it for comfort and emotional support and entertainment and all of that. And you can get all those things from other parts of life. You can find something else to do that's interesting. You don't need to eat something interesting, you need to do something interesting. So yeah, that was a big focus for me as well.
Yeah, I love that. So today, what have you been doing since the year of the potatoes?
Well, yeah, it's a strange thing, but it's still strange for me to think about. But it's actually become what I do now. So I learned a lot from that year, and I've combined my own experience and my own research I'm a teacher, and I've spent a lot of years working with at-risk youth, so kids that have struggled with mainstream schooling for whatever reason, for a variety of different reasons. So sort of combine the two to all this newfound knowledge and experience combined with my teaching experience to then be able to package it up and share it with people. So it's what I do now. I have online courses, I've written books, and I also do personal one-on-one coaching where I help people deal with food addiction, and I help people lose weight and get healthy. And yeah, that's what I do now. So yeah, it's pretty crazy to think that that's where this journey has led me, but it's also very cool to every day get to open my email and hear from people that have, you know, improved their life in so many different ways. So yeah.
Is it mostly online versus in person?
Yeah. Well, I do. Yeah, I have my online courses that people do, and then I have one-on-one coaching, which most of that happens online as well. So it'd be through a call like you and me are doing now. I would talk to people and coach that way, or just through a phone call. And yeah, I have a number of people that I'm working with on a one-on-one basis, and I love that. It's great to be able to talk to someone every week and hold their hand and guide them through to yeah, achieving health.
Yeah, and how does exercise play a role in what you teach?
It doesn't really.
Okay.
And exercise is good. I do a lot of exercise myself. I love it. Exercise is important, but that's just something that evolves. Like most food is the biggest thing. You can't outrun a bad diet, and you know you can't. Food is the problem. So my focus is all about food, and everyone who I work with ends up exercising. But that doesn't happen because I say you need to go and exercise, you need to go and burn some calories or whatever. It happens because they get the rest of their life in order, and food, especially, they get food under control. They change their relationship with food. They change the way they think about food. They eat a healthy diet, and before too long, they're bouncing off the walls. They've got a lot of energy, and you know, they start thinking, "Wow, this is it." And it mirrors my own experience. This was exactly what happened to me. That you just start, you know, you become like a caged lion walking around the house, just looking for something to do, and suddenly you go, oh, "I've got to get outside. I've got to do something," and then you start exercising, and you know, so that sort of happens organically. And exercise is important. It is healthy, but it's definitely not a focus of mine. That just happens, and yeah, people are we're meant to be active. It's natural for people to be active, and we should be active. And yeah, if you get everything else in order, you'll find that you want to be active, and that's the perfect time to start it.
Yeah. You just described me. I bounce off the walls if I have to sit around the house too long.
Yeah.
What kind of I would assume that you're doing more of a whole food plant-based kind of recommendations now for your clients. Is it or is it just potatoes mainly, or what's the
Yeah,
composition
so
there?
I've actually just a few weeks ago now, maybe a month ago, released my second online course, which is called Mega Foods, and that's sort of my take on a whole food plant-based diet. It's all about focusing on what I call the mega foods, and that's what I do now. I still do eat a lot of potatoes, which a lot of people are surprised about, but that's combined with other mega foods, which are, you know, the other sort of starchy, calorie-rich kind of foods, like so potatoes, rice, beans, lentils, oats, other grains and legumes, and you know, sweet potatoes, all those sorts of things. And yeah, those are what I call the mega foods. So they're the base of the diet, and then yeah, other fruits and vegetables, and to sort of top that up, like, you know, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, carrots, beetroot, you know, berries, all this other sort of stuff. That's a complement to it, but focusing on those, you know, the staples basically. Yeah, the mega foods. So that's what I focus on. And so when people take my courses, they come into my Spud Club membership that we have. Those are the two courses available. You can either choose potatoes only, or you can choose mega foods. And it's the same with my individual one-on-one coaching. Most of the people that I coach on a one-on-one basis are actually not doing only potatoes. But yeah, some people do. It's just, we work on that on an individual basis. And I'm not really a prescriptive kind of coach where if you work with me, you're going to eat my way. I work with my clients to come up with an individual plan that works within each person's life. But it is always a whole food plant-based kind of plan. Yeah.
What do you recommend for people that have partners, wives, girlfriends, um, that aren't quite on board or don't like that sort of diet?
Figure it out. You don't have to. You don't have to eat the same as someone to love them. That's that's fine. My wife didn't eat only potatoes while I did, and you know, she kept on eating the way that she always had. She kept having ice cream and chocolate and those sorts of things that are not. She wasn't. She's one of these alien type of people that can have one square of chocolate and then leave the block alone, and that's fine. I'm not going to impose my will on her to say you're not allowed to eat chocolate anymore. That's just she can do her thing and I can do mine, and we have a lot else in common other than just the way we eat. We can connect over different things. So yeah, that's what I would say is that, yeah, okay, just accept that you're not the same as the people that are around you, and it's okay to be different. And if you used to connect over food, then okay, let that go and find something else to connect over, and you'll probably find something that's more meaningful and more worthwhile. So yeah, don't be afraid of it. Just you do your thing and just do what's best for you, and you'll maybe you'll become closer for the experience, as happened with me and my wife. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, she must be very patient to go through that with you. So that's a good thing.
Oh, not necessarily. I don't think it was
Really?
really. I don't really think it was a big. I was just eating potatoes. There's no big deal. It doesn't require any patience for anyone else. It's just you can eat whatever she wants, and I'll eat potatoes. And there's not really if there's any pressure involved in it, it's all in your head. Like, it required nothing of her for me to eat potatoes. It didn't require, if it's a burden on someone else, if what you eat is somehow a burden on someone else, then that's on them in my eyes. That's like, why should it shouldn't have any impact on anything if I decide to eat potatoes while you're eating pasta and pizza. Like, who cares?
That's right. That's right. Cool. Well, I think we got through most of my questions, so I really appreciate it, your time, and thanks for talking to me about this.
No worries at all, and yeah, happy to talk to anyone who will listen, and happy to answer any questions. So yeah, all good. Thank you for having me, and yeah, giving me a soapbox to stand on for a little while.
Oh, it's awesome. Awesome. So your site is spudfit.com. Is that?
Yeah, spudfit.com, and I'm spudfit on all the various social medias: YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I haven't got onto this TikTok thing yet.
Well, watch out, world. TikTok is waiting for Spudfit. It's all open.
Maybe not. Maybe I'm. Who knows? Never say never.
All right, cool. Well, thanks a lot, Andrew. I appreciate it.
No worries. And yeah, if anyone is interested to learn more, yeah, like we said, go to spudfit.com, and don't be afraid to email me as well, Andrew@spudfit.com, and I answer all my